All right, let's just dive right in. Today, we're going to explore a pretty radical idea: how you can take all the struggles, the hardships of life, and transform them into a genuine work of art. And look, this isn't just about coping. This is a guide for anyone who wants to live well, a more heroic life. And it all really starts with this one single powerful question. I want you to really think about this for a second. Think about your own life, the challenges you're facing right now. Is all that suffering a poison, something you desperately need to get rid of? Or is it a pigment, a necessary color for the masterpiece you're creating? To even begin to answer that, we first have to understand what we're up against. The source material gives it this incredible name, the tarantula's venom. It's this universal metaphor for life's inevitable pain, right? For that creative struggle, that hidden spite that just seems to come out of nowhere.
And this frames the fundamental choice perfectly. On one hand, you can see the venom as a moral problem, a flaw in the universe, an evil that has to be solved and erased with pure logic. Or you can see it as an aesthetic pigment, an essential, dark, maybe even vibrant color, without which the painting of your life would be kind of flat, meaningless even. So let's explore that first path for a moment, the one that sees venom as just a problem to be solved. This is the path of evasion, what our source, looking through a Nietzschean lens, calls the last man's sterile order. So who is this last man? Well, he's the person who seeks only comfort and safety. He lives in what's called a kingdom of sterile order. So when the tarantula bites, he just sees it as a glitch in the system. And his solution? This cold lantern of logical optimism, this belief that all pain can just be engineered away. The problem is, in doing that, his life becomes starved of all intensity, of all passion. But the alternative, which is just so brilliantly illustrated here, is the Dionysian traveler. Now, he's named after Dionysus, the Greek god of chaos and instinct and ecstasy. This is the person who gets it. They understand that the world's savagery, its venom, is the raw material for a supreme art. They don't run from that bitter sting. They incorporate it. They see it as a sacred ingredient for creating something beautiful.
So, how do we actually make this shift in our own lives? Well, that brings us to the great revelation. This is the pivotal change in mindset that makes the whole transformation possible. Section 3, justified as art. And this leads us to a really crucial question. What if we've been looking at this whole thing wrong? What if the pain, the chaos, the struggle, what if it wasn't a mistake that needs to be corrected? And here's the answer. This is the central idea that holds this entire way of thinking together. The world is only justified as an aesthetic phenomenon. What does that mean? It means we stop judging life in terms of being morally good or bad. Instead, we find meaning by creating, by shaping our experiences, all of them, into something beautiful, something powerful. And when you make this shift, you're performing this incredible act of power. By changing your view from the moral to the musical, you take the spirit of gravity, that heavy, crushing weight of suffering, and you transform it into the rhythmic pulse of your own will to power. It stops being a burden, it becomes the very beat to which you dance. Okay, so that sounds great, but how do we actually do this? How do we forge a heroic life from all these raw materials? That brings us to our next section, the marriage of chaos.
This slide lays out what's called the mystical marriage of two creative drives from Greek thought. First, you need chaos. You have to embrace that raw, red energy of the Dionysian, that force of instinct and wild emotion. But raw energy on its own it's just raw. So second, you need form. You use the Apollonian mask, representing Apollo, the god of order and reason and structure, to shape that chaos. And the result? This incredible union of opposites turns a simple, chaotic pulse into a timeless, meaningful proverb.
And this right here is why the venom is so essential. It provides that raw, red energy you need to shatter a stagnant, comfortable life. Without that struggle, without that bite, both art and life would just lack the power, the urgency, to become truly great. It's the jagged rock you need for the heroic climb. So where does this climb actually lead? It leads to the creation of the ultimate masterpiece, yourself. This is the goal of the Overman, the heroic ideal. This is dancing with fate.
This brings us to a core practice, amor fati, the love of fate.
This is the active choice to treat every accident, every single bit of the tarantula's spite, not as a mistake, but as an intentional, necessary stroke in your life's masterpiece. You don't just put up with it. You will it to be exactly as it was. You love it. And the person who achieves this develops what the source calls the great health. Now, this isn't just not being sick. It's a powerful psychological state where your soul has literally learned how to metabolize the bitterness of the past. The venom is no longer a poison. It has become a stimulant for your vitality. And the life that results from this has a quality of tragic grandeur. It's the structured beauty of a life that has fully integrated its suffering. The venom hasn't been removed. It's been transformed into a defining color, giving the entire work its profound depth and heroic character. So, what does it mean when the source says, to write with blood? It means the ultimate act of life affirmation. It means to look at everything, the joy, the pain, the chaos, and to declare the entire cosmos a magnificent and necessary spectacle of constant becoming. Okay, let's bring all of this together in our final section. This is the ultimate goal of this entire path, to become a writer of life. And this is really the key takeaway. That spirit of gravity, that weight of suffering, it isn't defeated by rational arguments or logical optimism. No, it's defeated by the dance. It's defeated by the aesthetic act of transforming agony into a song of heroic affirmation. This slide sums up the final perspective of this heroic dancer perfectly. You finally realize that the forces you once saw as your enemies, the chaotic eater and the venomous tarantula, are actually the sacred architects of your deepest joy. You understand that your striving, it's the very music to which the cosmos moves. You are no longer a victim. You stand as a lightning bolt of meaning. And so we're left with this final, beautiful instruction, the law of the quill. It says, "Let thy striving be a transformation, for only the writer of life can turn venom into truth. Your struggle is your material. Your life is your art." Which, of course, brings us right back to you. Your life has its struggles, its venom, its tarantulas. The question was never about whether or not you'll be bitten. The real question is, how are you going to write your story?